so we're back there. All right, so we did this. This converted to claims. So over the break, somebody asked me how I fixed my upgrade issue when I did the service account thing. I did some terrible things in SQL that I'm not about to admit to in public. And she asked why I didn't just do a restore. At that point, we were doing backups once a day, and I had made my terrible blunder at noon. So if we would have just done a restore, I'd have lost half a day's worth of data. And my users would not have liked that. As much as they hate SharePoint being down, they would hate it being gone, their data being gone even worse. So, but thanks for bringing that up. All right, so, okay, so here, you guys probably can't see that, can you? All right, let me. That. Let's zoom in there. Okay, so this, first off, at the break, we were doing the whole conversion from classic to claims, and I was explaining how that was all magic and all that. So I'm going to kind of show you what happens in the background so you understand a little better. The other thing is I am in SQL. When is it okay to do queries in SQL against SharePoint databases? Never. Never, ever. This is one of those things, do as I say, not as I do. Don't do this. Now, in reality, this is a test environment, so it's okay, but don't do this in production for any number of reasons. So this is my database. This is that content database that I attached. And it said, hey, dummy, this is classic. You're in claims. This isn't going to work. This is the user info table for that database. So the user info table maintains a list of users for every site collection in the content database. And in this case, there's only one. But this is that information. The important part is this TP login. So you can see I have the litware domain, litware, authenticated users, and SharePoint. Those are the users that have access to the site collections in that content database. As you can tell, this thing is very important, massive, lots of important stuff in here. 4 whole users, actually only 2. So that's what it looks like in Classic. So when I log in, I type litware, whatever, and I log in. When I do, my mouse doesn't work very well here. Over here. All right. When I do the classic to claims upgrade, what happens is it essentially goes through and does a find with replace on this TP login field, and it adds the claims username there. Now, the error that I got, you remember when I ran it, it said I couldn't convert some users. The reason it couldn't convert the users is the domain that this is in is Contoso. The domain that is in is litware. It couldn't do the conversion because it wasn't the right domain. So you won't have that problem. That was just a demo land problem. Because there's another problem that comes from having one Contoso domain that I created 3 years ago when I created that demo, and then having another Contoso domain today, and the SIDs are different. So it's the same domain name, but SIDs are different and everything goes haywire. So I didn't use the same domain. But you can see that the Windows one, that C is a group, a container. But that's what happens inside of the database. So when your users try to log in, if you've got a claims web app, IIS, SharePoint, try to use that to get into the site collections, but it's the information on the previous screen that has permission, so you can't get in. So that's what happens. So when you run that, it just goes through and kind of does a find with replace there. Any questions on that process? It sounds way scarier than it really is. And I forgot to plug my machine in, so let's do that quick before my demo's end. We don't want to lose this. Glad I was looking at that when that came up. Not long now. Whew. Save the day. Okay, so this is how we upgrade a content database. So the first thing that we're going to do is test SP content database. We're going to give it the database name and then the web application. Why do we need to give it the web application? Why does that matter? Yeah, that's it. So as you look at like solutions, WSPs, when you deploy solutions, sometimes they're global, sometimes they're specific to a web app. So for SharePoint to know whether it can render out the content in that content database, it needs to know which web app you're going to attach it to, because some web apps might have some WSPs, some web apps might have another. So that's why you got to put that in there, so it knows which one to compare it against. You'll also notice that the test command bears a striking resemblance to the mount command. So what normally happens when I'm doing an upgrade, now, you should research your upgrades carefully. You should read, you should go to sessions like this, you should know what you're doing, you should watch videos and all that. But I'm telling you, when I do most upgrades, I type test SP content database, and almost every single time, no matter what shows up on the screen, I hit up arrow, I hit home, and I replace test with mount, and I just mount it. And just see what works. And it has just worked so many times. Because again, we've seen those errors come up, and upgrade blocking true or false are almost always false. I can usually figure out what to fix the stuff on. But that's an easy test, and if it doesn't work, and it doesn't work well, you can just dismount it. You probably just restored that database from a backup, so you can just restore it again. But I just go for it most times. So here's an example of a test SP content database. This one I threw in because it's got another common error up here. Can you guys see that in the back? Probably not. Let me zoom in on that. This is another error that I get partially because of the way I install SharePoint, but partially because of upgrades. So I got this database, it's called Classic. I'm hooking it up to upgrade.toddklindt.com. Now, when I build a SharePoint farm, I talked about how I do the edit host things. One of the things that I do is I create every web application right away, and then I create a site collection at the root of every web application right away, and then I run my edit hosts thing, and then I test it. I just make sure that I get that default page. Because that tells me that DNS is working, that tells me that my logins are working, that tells me the loopback detection shut off, that tells me everything's okay, so that when I start the upgrade, if everything explodes, I'm not, well, was that my SSL, sir? Was that my login? I don't have those problems because I know that it worked before the upgrade. I do that all the time when I install SharePoint. So now, I told you that when you upgrade, the very first thing you want to do is create a site collection at / at the root. Except I just told you that I've already created a site collection at / at the root. So this one I wanted to show you. If you do that, and it's all good, I attached this database, I did the right thing, I attached the one with / and it's like, no, can't do that. There is already one there. I can't upgrade the site collection because there's already one there. But you'll also notice upgrade blocking false. You can still attach the database. But what it's going to do is it's going to create a site orphan. And a site orphan is, like any orphan, very sad, doesn't have any parents. So this orphan is a site collection in your content database that doesn't have a parent web app. It was not attached to a web app. So all the content's still in the content database, it's still taking up space, it's still there, but it's just not accessible. So what will happen is if you attach this database, if you do the old up arrow, home, mount, it will mount the database, it will attach all the other site collections, but not that one. So that can happen a couple of ways. That can happen if you create one, that kind of stuff. The easy fix is either to delete the one that you already created, or when I create my web application, I always call the first database like, WSS content, blah-de-blah, delete, because it's going to have CRUD in it from just my testing. So I'm like, oh, I forgot to delete that database. Go dismount that database, run this again, and then that error goes away. But don't freak out about that one. But that's a pretty common one that happens if you do any kind of testing. All right. Let's go back here. So, and then it's got the same errors. It's got that report viewer, and then it's got the claims, the classic thing. But again, most times I just go ahead and hit upgrade. Well, and so in this case, I did the dismount, and I stuck the dismount. So there I just dismounted that delete database that I talked about that has that root in it, and then I run the test again, and you'll notice that error's gone. Now we've skipped to that thing. So when you're doing the test SP content database, you're likely going to get a bunch of errors, and it's going to be, logo files missing, and solutions missing, and features missing. You're going to spend a lot of time doing test SP site content database, a bunch of errors, some fiddling, test SP site content database. hopefully fewer errors, and just kind of keep whittling it down. The other thing is you're going to want to start at the top of that file and work down this list. Because here's just the way that the engine works in the background is it checks for solutions. And if a solution's missing, it yells at you. And then it checks for features. And if a feature's missing, it yells at you. And then it checks for files. And if a file's missing, it yells at you. So what if you have a solution that contains a feature that deploys some files? That error is going to show up in 3 places. And if you start at the bottom, you're going to go, oh, I can't, that's that file, and you're going to copy it over from your old server. Then you're going to run it again, and like, oh, that feature, well, that file's already, and you're going to copy your feature over. And then you're going to work up, and you're going to go, that solution, and the solution's not going to install because you've copied the feature over. So start at the top of this list and work down, and chances are things that you fix at the top will fix things farther down the list. Back here. All right, so there are a few things that are the same as the process from going to 2007 to 2010. All those commands. So all those commands you also ran when you went from 2007 to 2010 if you did the database attached. That's all the same. There's also 1 log created per upgrade. So every time you mount a database and it upgrades, it creates a log. And then there's also a special file that's created that's just bad news. It's the error file. So that's normally the one I go to first. You do your mount, it creates a log file, and it's all good news. Found the file, attaching the file, yay. I don't care about any of that. I just want to know where it went pear-shaped. So there's a special error file for that. It's in 15 logs as opposed to 14 logs, but still the same directory. You can mount multiple content databases at the same time. And that can be a good or a bad thing. So on a single SharePoint box, you can have 2 PowerShell windows open and run 2 mount commands at the same time, and that works. Or you can have multiple SharePoint boxes and run the mount command at the same time. That works. And that's a big deal because in 2007, you could not do that. Once you while you were in the process of attaching a content database, it would lock the config database. So if you've got a lot of content databases, you can do this. If you're considering this, what do you think the bottleneck is? Where do you think problems start showing up? The answer is 3 letters. SQL, exactly. So this is an incredibly SQL-intense process. Mostly SQL intense. So your SharePoint servers aren't doing much. They're kind of basically writing some tasks down and shipping it off to the SQL server and then kind of snoozing. So if you're going to attach multiple content databases, and there's nothing wrong with it, you want to keep an eye on your SQL box and see how the I/O and the memory and all that is on your SQL box. Make sure that it can keep up so you don't kill it when you're doing that. Another one that's important is the look and feel is not automatically upgraded. So you've got 2010 site collections. When you attach them to 2013, ta-da, they still look like 2010. That is on purpose. They do that on purpose, and there is no way, or certainly not any easy way, to automatically attach the database and upgrade the site collections. They went out of their way to make that not easy because they kind of have this idea at Microsoft when they're doing their upgrades to do no harm. They don't want to break anything. So they're reducing the chances of something being broken if they don't upgrade the site collections. So we'll talk about how to do that in a bit. But don't be freaked out when you attach your database and everything looks the same. Yes, sir?
In such a case, would you move customizations within your 14 hive onto the new server and put it back in the 14 hive?
Okay, so his question was, I've got customizations in my 14 hive. Do I copy them over to the new server in the 14 hive, or do I put them in the 15 hive? Where do I put them? A couple of things about that. Customizations like branding and master pages and all that, they will work for your 2010 site collections. They will not work for 2013, so you're going to have to rewrite all that again. Yes, they will work. SharePoint 2013 is smart enough to look for things in the 15 hive and then look for things in the 14 hive, look for things in the 12 hive. It's interesting if you go into the ULS viewer or go into Central Admin and turn verbose logging on for everything and then load a page and watch all the stuff, you can actually see it walk down the list of directories. But those things should have been solutions or features. So hopefully you brought a solution over that populated all that for you. But in the case that it didn't happen, yeah, just pulling those directories over. And that's one of those things where if you forget to do that, and it's like you're missing a master page and you try to render it and everything explodes, just copy the directory over, refresh, and do it on all your servers. And I think that earned you a book, sir. You too could be cool like this gentleman and get a free book just for asking a good question. So meet me down at the booth afterwards and we'll. All right, so here are a few things that are not the same as the 2007 to 2010 upgrade. When you make the upgrade, it's only the database. It's not the site collections. It's not the stuff in the background. In 2007 to 2010, it was just the visuals that didn't get changed. The idea here is to get those databases attached and get the content back online as quickly as possible. For a lot of things inside of SharePoint 2013, if you're asking yourself why it changed from 2010, especially things that don't make any sense, you have to ask yourself, does this help Microsoft with SharePoint Online? And more often than not, the answer is yes. And this is one of those examples. So because of the way that they admin SharePoint Online and move things around, getting databases online fast is an important deal because they move databases around a lot. So that's part of this. But it works out well for us too. But databases attach quickly, but it doesn't do the upgrade automatically. Here are some more things that are not the same. In 2010, when you upgraded, the admin did it. You mounted the database, it upgraded everything, and it was all you. In 2013, we just learned that the site collections do not upgrade. It's just the database, but we still need to upgrade the site collections. So that puts the upgrade process potentially in the hands of the site collection administrators, which probably horrifies many of you. But then step back and ask yourself, does this help Microsoft with SharePoint Online? Yes. Yes, it does. So this is the idea, they were using this in the background. It's the tenants, being able to choose that. So you have the option of allowing your site collection administrators to control when their site collections are upgraded. That can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your site collection administrators and your organization and things like that. It is something that you absolutely can control. You can shut it off if you don't trust those guys. You absolutely can leave it on if you do want to let them do it. And we're going to go walk through that process. So, do you have some? Yes.
Going back to the thing we told about the branding solution package. So assume I have a SharePoint 2010 branding solution, which is already copied over, and we attach it, and we have a 2010 option.
Yep.
At what point do we deploy a new 2013 solution package?
Okay.
So that it doesn't just interfere with my 2010.
Yep.
But when I actually do a site collection upgrade, the files are there that I need to apply.
Yep. All right, so he says he's got a 2010 custom branding solution. He's going to have a separate custom 2013 branding solution because they don't work the same. So he's kind of got this chicken and the egg thing. Do I upgrade this solution to 2013 and then break 2010, or do I upgrade my content to 2013 first? And then, however you write that, your solution, there is logic inside of that solution that says if this is a 2010, go this way. If there's a 2013, you can go this way. So you should be able to write that solution and that branding so that it works for both. Yeah. Yep, that's all, because as you can imagine, that scenario is pretty common, so they had to have some way to handle that. But yeah, you can have one thing that does both, or you can scope your solutions to different, the 15 or 14. So yeah, it'll all be in there. It'll work.
If it's a 15 scope solution, and also you said that it goes through all the highs,
Yep.
if I have not upgraded my site collection, it would not look at
If you have not upgraded your site collection, it will not look in the 15 Hive, I don't believe. But again, this is good homework for you. Crank up that logging, hit a 14 solution, or hit a 14 site, and see. But you can actually see, like I said, if you have that all cranked up in the ULS viewer, when you hit a front page, it will go through and it will look for everything, and it will give you the exact path for everything it's looking for, all the images and all that. That's good stuff. Another thing that is not the same is now the upgrade logs, whether you do the upgrade or the site collection administrator does the upgrade, are in the same format as the ULS logs. So now you can use the much-loved ULS log viewer to watch your upgrades happen, as opposed to Notepad and Refresh or Notepad++ or whatever you guys use. All right, so since this upgrade from 2010 to 2013 is a site collection upgrade, it's not just lipstick on a pig like it was 2007 to 2010, you can't go back. So once you upgraded 2013, you're at 2013. There's no backsies, there's no nothing. So you have to have a way to find out if it's going to work so that you know whether you can upgrade or not. So now there's this idea of an evaluation site collection. So I've got some screenshots of this, I think. Maybe not. I think I do. So when a user hits this for the first time, if they're a site collection administrator, and if you've left it on, the administrators are going to see a bar across the top that says, hey there, are you ready for the SharePoint 2013 experience? Let's give it a whirl. And when they go into that screen, it's going to say, we can upgrade you, or you can just try it out for a while. You can create an evaluation. And the evaluation is their way of finding out if they're, Everything's upgrade defined if their lists work, any custom web parts, all that kind of stuff, to find out if it works or not. Because if it doesn't and they upgrade, it just doesn't work. So it's in their hands to do an evaluation first. Few things about that. That evaluation is a copy. It will go away. No exceptions. Don't do real work in the evaluation site collection. It will be deleted automatically without your help. By default, that's 30 days. So 30 days after the user creates it, it will be deleted. No fanfare, no warnings, no nothing. So make sure that your users know not to do anything important there, not to do anything that they would miss. The other thing is it doesn't happen right away. The dialog boxes are kind of cute. They're like, well, you know, sometime in the next couple days when we get around to it, we'll create this thing for you, shoot you an email. This is a very intensive process. And so there's a lot of things in place that prevent it from taking the server down. If a lot of people try to do evaluations at once, things like that. So there is a timer job for each web app that says, go look at all the evaluation requests that are out there. That goes off at 1 a.m. in the morning. And then after it finds that, then there's an upgrade job that happens every minute. So you got to kick that one off. But they're going to happen at 1 a.m., and then it's going to email the site collection administrator and say, hey, here's the URL to your evaluation. Try that. That evaluation is going to have everything across the top that says it's only going to be here for this time. Don't make changes. Yes, sir?
Is that a replacement for the preview option from 2007?
His question, is that a replacement for the preview option? Kind of. But the difference is with the preview option, if you went from 2007 to 2010 and you went, oh, that's horrible, you could go back to 2007. You can't go back to 2010 on this one. So the evaluation is, again, it's a fork, it's a copy that will go away, and if you actually do the upgrade, there's no rolling back. So what this does is in the background, once this evaluation thing starts, it will set the regular site collection as read-only, make this copy, and it'll make a 2010 copy of your 2010 site collection. And then once that copy is done, it will upgrade the copy. It'll upgrade the evaluation. And I've got a thing there I'll show you where that's at, where you can kick that off so that when you're testing this on your own VMs, you don't have to wait till 1 o'clock the next morning for this to happen. There's a timer job you can kick. In production, though, there's a reason that this is done at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's very resource intensive. So you don't want this to happen during your peak hours when your users are doing stuff. This, again, SQL just gets itself beat up about this. So be careful with that. And then you can go into Central Admin and see if the jobs are running. If you have SQL Enterprise on the back end, it can use a database snapshot, which will help some of your performance, some of your read-only stuff. Right, and I think I've got some code to show you here. I don't have it here. I'll bring it up in a minute. But there is a timer job, again, that is the check for evaluation thing. So I'll put that out there for you. So when you're testing it, you can create your eval requests and then go kick this job, and then it will make your evaluations right away. So that's the fun thing. When the job finishes, you'll have a new site collection. So if you're quick, when you kick that job off, that upgrade happens in a minute or less. So if you're doing get SP site a lot, you'll see the copy show up as 14, and then quick like a bunny, it turns to 15. Or if you've got a web page open and you know what the URL is going to be, you can hit it, and you can actually watch it building the page. You can see the sprites and everything. I'm kind of a dork. I like seeing this kind of stuff, but you can actually see it building it out. So yeah, the second job is every minute. All right, so this is what your site collection administrators will see. So we all recognize this group of jokers here. They've been our friends constantly for the last 3 years with SharePoint 2010. So this is the upgrade.toddklindt.com. So this is the one that I've been attaching all those databases to. I'm logged in, very responsibly as a service account, because that's how you should browse SharePoint. And you'll notice this is all very 2010, but I've got the thing at the top that says experience all that SharePoint 2013 has to offer. Click here. So you can set that reminder so your site collection administrators can say, I'm not ready yet, remind me in a few days, and it will shut that bar off. But again, only people who can actually do the upgrade will see that. Regular users will not. And you can also shut that off if you don't want your site collection administrators to see it. But let's say that we can see it. We do want to do it. So this is saying, okay, prepare for takeoff. Somebody had a lot of fun with this. So I think with SharePoint 2013 and Office 2013, they started letting these these freer, more fun things in. I was looking in Word the other day, and you can do the co-authoring in Word where two people can be editing the same document at the same time. But there's a way to do that. You can block the other author, and there's an option that says block author. And if you do that and you hover over it, the help says, this prevents other people from editing the document, and it actually says, this is like calling dibs on the document. Like some 20-year-old college intern's in there giggling to himself as he's typing these things. But this is the same kind of thing. Prepare for takeoff. And you have two options in here. Let's see if we can. Going to do a few pre-flight checks to stick with our aviation-themed humor here. There's a list of things that SharePoint will check on your site collection before it tries to upgrade it to 2013. And we can do this on the back end, or it will do it for us when we do this. Things like making sure everything's in place. There's a list in there, you can see them. So the big blue box says upgrade it. And remember, there's no going back. You click that, you're committed. You're all the way in. But if you don't want to do that and you're not sure, you can do a demo. And they can set it up in 1 to 2 days. No rush. But that's that thing where it kicks off the timer job at 1 a.m. and does the stuff, and it throttles all that, so it potentially might not get to it the first day, but that does that, so you got to try a demo upgrade, and that will do the upgrade. So I did that. I said, hey, let's do the demo upgrade, and I got this dialog box here. It says create the evaluation, and it says here, before you take the leap, ridiculous. Again, 1 to 2 days and create that. So that's going to do that thing where it creates a copy of the site collection, gives it the -eval URL, and we'll see that here in a minute. And then your users will be able to see it. So another one that says, we've got your request, we'll email you when it's ready. And it's going to email the site collection administrator. So this is the Powershell for the timer job. This might not show up very well for you in the back. Yeah. And again, this will be on all the slides. But what I did, and I kind of walked through it just to kind of show you how I got to it. So I did a get SP timer job, and I knew that it was create eval something. So there's one for each web application on this farm. That's important. If you've got multiples, you know you got to kick it off more than once. So that was the thing. I found it was my upgrade web application, and that was its ID right there, that EDE. So I ran that, and that kicked off that thing. So it said it looked in the queue to see what evaluations I had waiting, and then queued them up. And so now you can see I've got my upgrade.toddklindt.com, which is at 14, so 2010, and then it's created /sites/root-eval, which is now currently at 14 because I caught it before it did the upgrade. So that's what's going to happen. For the root site, it's going to create /sites/root-eval. For every other one, it's going to create it in the same managed path, but -eval at the end. And that's also something you can customize. And then here you can see I let it run, and it ran, and now I can see that it's been upgraded to 2015. Here's another one of those. I did the get SP site from my upgrade web application, just to kind of show off that I knew that you didn't have to use a URL. And so now it's at 15, so now I can look at it. And there are our friends, but with the stunning blue of SharePoint 2013. So we've got all that there. Obviously, there's not much going on in the site collection. It upgraded pretty quick, pretty easily. But you can see up here at the top, it says, don't do work here. Now, I don't know about how your office goes, but I don't normally have to try too hard not to get people to work where I work. But we got it up there. It's an evaluation copy. It will be deleted May 22nd. You get 30 days. It will be gone. They're serious about this. So make sure that's one of the things you're going to have to communicate well to your end users, that if they create an evaluation, that goes away. Any questions about that so far? Yes, sir.
One thing I have noticed is the change in the syntax of the URL of SharePoint 2013 compared to 10.
How so? He can't remember.
I'll find an example, I'll show it to you later.
Okay.
It's just the URI.
Oh, yeah. So he said he noticed some differences in URLs, and Lori brought up, it's probably the minimal download strategy, MDS. So it's sending you a start.aspx page and then a link to another page. Yeah, so that's another one of those things I talked about earlier, the pound of flesh. So one of the things that people complained about was that SharePoint pages were too heavy, took too long to load. And Microsoft really couldn't say, no, they're not, because they are. So 2013 introduced this thing called MDS, or the Minimal Download Strategy, where the page doesn't send everything at once. It sends the pieces enough to get the page started, and then as people scroll and hover over things, it sends more stuff in the background. So those URLs end up looking strange because there's like a page that hosts that, and it has a reference to the page you're going to. Again, it's called MDS, and it is a site collection level feature. You can shut that off. And that does, if you do custom branding and things like that, it can get in the way of some of that stuff. So, yeah, MDS. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah. So his question was, do you have to be careful if you have large site collections? The answer to that is always yes. Yeah, so and we're going to cover that here in a couple of slides, but there are a bunch of things in place inside of this upgrade process that throttle different pieces. And so when you've got large site collections, there are different ways that they're handled to try to minimize the impact. It creates a full copy of the site collection. Yeah, so he's talking about, when I create this database, if I've got a 100 gig site collection inside of my content database, did my content database just grow by 100 gig? Yes, it did. And your transaction log just went as that upgrade happened. So make sure you're paying good attention to your transaction logs and all that. Yeah, this is going to chew up some space. You can delete that site collection earlier if you need to, that evaluation. Any other questions? Yes, sir. His question was, are there any web parts or list types that have been removed that are going to cause you problems? So yes, things have been removed, but I can't think of any that actually break. So there's a bunch of things like web templates that you can't create in 2013 anymore, but they still render. Can anybody, do you know of any that break?
There's a change in a setting, isn't there?
Yes, there's a change in the setting. And there's been changes like with the content editor web parts and the data view web parts, and some of those get jiggled around. But for the most part, the idea is that it will work. But again, as I was telling somebody at the break, if you're an internal SharePoint administrator, you know who your problem children are because they've been bothering you for years. I mean, they're always the people that break stuff and got in with SharePoint design or another page. I mean, you know who those people are. So these kind of questions, it's going to be those people that have those kind of web parts. The regular out-of-the-box stuff's going to work. And that's another thing. I don't know if I'm going to get to it because we got like 20 minutes. Over the break, I got some questions about specific things. I've got a site collection that's got this that's not going to upgrade, or I want to be able to do this. I want to reorganize things. What does that mean? In a lot of cases when I'm doing these upgrades, there are these one-offs. There's these crazy things, your problem children or your large lists or whatever. And the strategy that I will take with a lot of these customers is I will have them figure out where their tough content is. And then we'll break it up. So it's easy inside of PowerShell. You've got the move SP site commandlet that will take a site collection and move it from one content database to another. And so as we're preparing to do the upgrade and we're looking at things, I'll say if you've got a bunch of out-of-the-box site collections that are going to upgrade just slick, let's start making sure they're all in the same content databases. And when we actually do the upgrade, we're going to take those databases and we're just going to attach them. And they're going to upgrade, and we're going to be heroes, and life's going to be great. And then we're going to have the problem children that have never seen a thing on the internet that they wouldn't download and try to install on their page. And they've got the snowflakes that follow their cursor around and done all this crazy stuff. Those folks are going to go into different databases, and we're going to figure out how to handle them. And another example somebody gave me at the break was that they wanted to organize things. They were true to my don't upgrade crap philosophy, and they wanted to reorganize things, move some webs around, break up some site collections, shrink some site collections. Those go into a different database. The ones that you can do out of the box, you upgrade those databases and you're good. The other ones, now you're looking at third-party tools. You're looking at something like ShareGate or Metalogix or something, and you fix those problems. But the important thing is, don't think that if you've got 100 site collections in your organization and one of them is going to trip you up, you don't have to do the other 99 with the third-party tool. You can do the other 99 with the out-of-the-box piece and just do the one little bit that needs that special attention. Do that one separately. But figuring out where your problems are at will save you a lot of time. Yes, sir.
Question about my site's upgrades, service application. When is the best time for my site from is it before the contract?
So his question was, when is the best time to upgrade your My Site bit? Because that's part service application, part content database. I always do the service applications first, bring all that stuff over, and then bring the My Site site collections and content databases over second. And those don't support much customization, if any, so that should go through pretty easily.
But the problem is that you have gradually, you do your content database upgrade gradually, so you have two versions of My Sites. And when you use SharePoint service environment, there is an old one. And it's getting a bit tricky, so what I did, we just put it read-only on SharePoint 2010.
Put a what?
Put My Sites.
Okay.
Because you have, you can't upgrade the whole farm in one day. So for
Yeah.
some time you have lost.
Yeah, so she mentioned you can't, unless you're very small, you can't upgrade your entire farm in one chunk. So you can't say, Friday everybody's 2010, Monday everybody's 2013. You don't probably have that luxury. And that's okay for some things, but for My Sites that gets tricky because there's that link that people click and it takes them one place to the other. So if you have heavy use of My Sites, you have to make sure and understand the ramifications of that, because that will trip you up also. Okay, so this is, so the upgrade of the site collection, we've done the eval, we've worked out the kinks, we know where the problems are at, we fixed them. The crap will not be upgraded. Now we're actually going to upgrade the site collection. So again, this can be done by the site collection administrator. You can put the hands and the power to the people and all that. You can also do it as a farm admin with PowerShell. And you can do the evals that way too. You can request an eval or do the site collection upgrade there. Upgrade SP site is the commandlet that does that. SharePoint has a list of 7 things that it hates that you do, and that's that health check that we talked about in the previous one. It will do that. The site collection administrator can also go into the site settings, and it's one of the things in there, run health checks, and it will show them what the test checks are, check for language packs, things like that. Site settings, health things, and then you can test it, you can do it, and that's how you do it in PowerShell to test SP site. See if those rules are there. The language pack's always funny because in the US, I live in the middle of the US, everybody speaks English 2,000 miles in every direction of my house. So we just don't even think about that. But over here in Europe, you guys do that a lot more. So I don't hit that as hard as I probably could because I just don't see it as much. But that's one of the 7 checks is to make sure all the language packs are there. While the site collection upgrade is happening, it also gets its own log file, and it's going to be in the 15 logs and all that. The other thing is now, since the site collection administrators might be doing this, they also have access to the log file for their site collection upgrade. I can't think of a single user that would look at that and be able to make heads or tails of it, but it is in there if they want to get to it. We talked about some of the throttling. We're going to get into that. One of the things about the throttling is small site collections will go quickly, 10 meg, with fewer than 10 subwebs will happen inside of the app pool. So it's actually IIS doing it. Anything larger than that will be done by a timer job. I'm guessing that will be 100% of your site collections will get done by the timer job. I don't even know if site collections are smaller than 10 meg with just a blank template anymore. But that's one of the things that it does. So we have a few slides here on throttling. So the idea behind all these is much like Microsoft doesn't want SharePoint Online to go down while things are being upgraded, they don't want your farm to go down. So there are all these throttles in place. Most, if not all of them, can be tweaked. So if your hardware is beefy enough or whatever, you can go in and shut a bunch of these down. But upgrade is expensive, and it's particularly expensive for SQL I/O because that's where all the stuff's happening. Your SharePoint servers are doing a little bit. It's mostly on SQL's back. So there's a bunch of these. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can throttle the amount of site collections per web app that happens. You can change that size if you want bigger ones to happen inside of the app pool. There are throttling limits on how many site collections per content database. So even if they haven't met the throttling condition for the web app. And here are some creative PowerShell on how to see those and set those. So you've got the site collection, throttle settings, storage count, web count, all that kind of stuff. You can get in there and tweak those. Be careful with those. Those are there for a reason. So if you make sure you test all those. Upgrade commandlets that you care about. We've got test SP content database. We talked about that one. Mount SP content database. That's the one that actually mounts the database but does not upgrade your site collections. Request SP upgrade evaluation site. So that's analogous to the end user going in, I want to try it, or eval, yes, I really do. You can do that in PowerShell. Again, that waits till that 1 o'clock timer job runs. Upgrade SP site is you actually do the upgrade. There are some other commands that have upgrade in the name that do things. One crazy one about this is, what does upgrade SP content database do? Yes, no. Yes, upgrade SP content database does not upgrade your SP content database, at least not in the context of this discussion. For SharePoint, there are 2 types of upgrade. The thing that we've been talking about this entire 2 hours now are version to version upgrades, or V to V. So version 14 to version 15, here in a couple months, version 15 to version 16, V to V upgrades. The upgrade SP content database commandlet that you will see if you run that is for build to build upgrades, or B to B upgrades. And that's the case where you've installed the March 2015 cumulative update, but you haven't run the configuration wizard yet, so your database is running in compatibility mode. Upgrade SP content database does the build to build upgrade. It does not do the version to version upgrade, which is incredibly confusing, as all of the other upgrade commandlets are for version to version stuff. All right, the notification system. So this is that bar across the top that your site collection administrators see when they go to the site after the upgrade. So you got to figure out which web app you're at. The evaluation retention days, so by default, that's 30 days. Like that gentleman noticed, if you've got some big site collections, that can have some big impact on your SQL databases. So you may want to cut that back to 10 or 15 or whatever. But you can control that, and obviously it'll control, your users will see it. There's an upgrade maintenance link that will explain what's going on. I've not had good luck getting that or the read-only maintenance link working, but I haven't tried in a while, so they may have fixed that. But that's potentially links that your users can go to see what's going on or see what's happening. The upgrade reminder delay, that's that thing where when your site collection administrator got that red bar and it said start now or quit pestering me, that's how long it is till that quit pestering me comes back in. And I can't remember how long it is, 3 days or something by default, but you can change that also to make it more persistent or whatever. Do any of you have services farms in 2010? Any hands? Good, smart folks. Keep up with that. The idea with 2010 was you could have a farm that had services, search, user profile, whatever, but no content. Well, it could have content, but there was one farm that owned specific services, and then other farms consumed those services. So maybe an example of that is if you had an official IT SharePoint farm and they owned search, but yeah, you had another group that wanted to spin up their own farm because they had some third-party add-in that they wanted to add. Their farm could consume search from the corporate farm, services farm. If you do that, keep in mind that a SharePoint 2010 farm can consume a SharePoint 2013 farm, so upgrade your services farm first. But you guys don't have that. I don't recommend that. That's not an easy solution to keep going the whole services farm. Not good. So just some more PowerShell that I want to show you guys. If you want to set your site collections to read-only, that's how you do that, and that's upgrade or not. If you set a database in SQL to read-only, so you go into SQL Management Studio, properties, read-only is true. SharePoint is smart enough to realize that it can't write back to that database. It will keep rendering SharePoint and everything will look fine, but nobody will be able to write anything. It'll take out all the upload links, it'll take out all the new links and all that. So this is a good thing if you're starting to move things over, you want to leave things online, but people not use them, you can do that. The SP Web Application Compatibility Range, that is that idea of when I create a new site collection, is it 2010, is it 2013, is it both? That's where you can set that. You can set the min and the max. It is odd that it's min and max as if there was a range when there's only 2 values. So I'll be curious when 2016 comes out what that looks like. The other thing I talked about earlier was we've never been able to upgrade from more than one version. So let's talk about that. How many of you guys have 2007 right now? Okay, so you have two options for 2007. One of them is 2007, bounce it through a 2010 farm, database attach, and then to 2013. That's one option. The other option is third-party tools. So third-party tools are able to go from 2007 to 2013. For those of you that have 2007, how do you think you're going to do it? Have you looked at it? What? You're on SP1. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah. I've seen a bunch of that, and I'm like, oh, we got to put SP2 on. They're like, no, that's not going to fly, because it'd be upgrade for days. So we've successfully done the 2010 to 2013 thing. Keep in mind that it's going to do the visual upgrade thing automatically for you going into 2013 because it can't render 2007, so there's going to be a big jump there. But yeah, third-party tools. You had a question, sir?
Just an upgrade method that is very rarely spoken about is simply just taking the data, especially if it's not thing, putting it into the system with some scripts behind it.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah, so his thing, he said there's another option that I haven't talked much about, just moving the data over. And that's something that we do sometimes, though like you've mentioned, there's some caveats to it. But one thing that you can do in 2007 or 2010, whatever, you can go into a document library and you can say use Explorer View. And it's going to probably prompt you for a username, and it's going to pop up a Windows Explorer box. It's going to have all your documents in it. Then you can go to your new 2013 site collection, go into Documents, Explorer View, poof, that pops up. Lasso them in 2007, drag them over to 2013, you're done. There are also scripting ways to do that. You can do that with PowerShell, things like that. The potential collateral damage with that is you're going to lose anything that's not content. You're going to lose metadata. You're going to lose workflows and alerts and all that kind of stuff. The owner of the document is going to be whoever just did that. So if you're like the farm administrator and Fred in accounting calls up and says, can you do the thing for me? Sure. And then you're going to end up looking like the owner on 2013. So have Fred do that if you can. The other thing, versions, things like that, you're going to lose. But for some cases, it works. And it doesn't work for list items. You can't do that. But for documents, it works. We do that all the time. That's yes, sir.
Well, say if I sort of did a test one, I sort of set it and moved my databases over, did a bit of testing, and I sort of think, okay, this is ready for go live.
Mm-hmm.
However, people are still using the 2010 one.
Yep.
Easy way to do the differential move from there to whatever stage. This one, or we can hold it down.
So his question was, once you get people testing in 2013 and get stuff over there, is there any way to move the differential changes from 2010 to 2013? There's not, because you're moving it either at the database level, you're upgrading at the site collection level. There's no good way. But that's where you're going to do stuff like set your read-only, set your site collections at read-only before you move that over, so they can still get to it. Large farms, large site collections, absolutely. So his question was, are there any tools that can do differentials? I'm guessing the third-party tools can do that. So I'm guessing, like the Metalogics or the AvePoint, you can set it up and do one across and then say, check it out now and look. And that's another great reason to use those tools. Probably do that. All right. We kind of hit that one. No shortcuts. Third-party tool. I should get commission, I wonder. But it's great. And again, I talked to some people over the break who'd had some bad experiences with third-party tools. Oh, I have too. They've gotten a lot better. They've gotten a lot better. And the other thing is they're really easy to use, and we have had unbelievably good luck having the end users use them. They've gotten easy enough, and the corners are rounded, and the colors are shiny enough now that you can put that in the hands of a knowledge worker and say, here's your old stuff, here's your new stuff. You figure it out. You move it over. And that's worked. And that's one of the, boy, we just have a couple minutes. That's one of the techniques that I employed with SharePoint when I was an internal guy, when I wasn't destroying production farms, is, again, as I've said it before, I'm lazy, though I like to think of it as efficient, but lazy also works. I would always try to keep the end users doing as much as they could, because everything they did was something I didn't have to do. It was more time that I could spend, watching pandas sneeze on YouTube videos or whatever. Because they were doing that kind of stuff. I didn't have to do it. And the other thing with that, not only is it less work for me, and I'm all about less work for me, but it gives them a sense of ownership in what's going on. So when you start doing your talk about your testing, so you get these problem children that we all have, and you say, okay, I'm going to start doing this upgrade thing, and I need your help because you push SharePoint to the limit. You make it do some crazy things I've never imagined. I need your help. I've got this farm set up. I'm going to copy some data over. I want you to try to break it. I want you to try to figure out what's going on. They start having some sense of ownership in it. Now you're not making them do your work. Now it's kind of their deal. Now you're, and man, that makes all the difference in the world. We did that at one company that I worked at. I had a meeting every month that I called the evangelist meeting, where I had the business, the SharePoint smart folks from all the different business units. So not necessarily, head folks, but just whoever in accounting or HR or whatever, there was the SharePoint smart person. And I would facilitate this meeting where they would just share things with each other. I wouldn't do any of the talking. So imagine how tough that was. But I was just like, all right, here's, Jenny from whatever, and she's gonna show this great snowflake web part. And that got them really invested in SharePoint. So then when we started doing the upgrades and everything got ugly and bad and nasty, they were in. They had some skin in the game and they helped. And they complained less, so that was great. So that's another technique that you can employ. Some companies don't have that culture though. I've been at some companies where they take every power away from the end user as possible, and IT does everything and controls it with an iron fist. I don't like that because it's more work, but it also keeps me from doing cool things. Because now I'm doing this, I'm creating webs for folks, and I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm not playing with all the other cool stuff. But I had a couple of, there we go, some horror stories that we've had. So one of the things you can do with a list is you can add multiple columns to a list. We've got rows in there. But we had a customer who had done that. They had a list with 10,000 items in it, which isn't as big a deal now as it was, a version or so ago in SharePoint, but it's a pretty respectable list. And they had added 259 custom columns to it. So not only was this long, this was wide. And the upgrade process said not only no, but hell no. We're not doing it. It actually triggered the upgrade blocking. It said, I'm not even going to try. I give. You got me. Uncle, I'm out. And so since that was a wide thing, it was really tough to do that. So the fix, we just deleted it. Talked to the customer, and the guy that had that problem, Mike Ross, he is smooth. So whenever we have angry customers or customers that need bad news, we step him up and he talked to him. But that was one of those things. And I talked to some other people during the break about the whole don't upgrade crap thing. And I said that whole process of don't upgrade crap, that starts on production. And it starts with things like that. When you start poking around and you're like, we've got this crazy list, what are we going to do with this? The first thing is you ask the people that are using it, you're like, do you use this list? Because if not, we're just going to delete it and just get rid of it in production. If you've got webs that you're not using anymore, get rid of them in production. If you've got solutions that you don't use anymore, that you downloaded the Fab 40 or something, and get rid of them in production. The less of that stuff that's in production for upgrade, the smoother that's going to be. So we had one story of some poorly written SharePoint 2010 features that were scoped for 2010 that only worked in 2010 but showed up in 2013. So when people tried to use them, it exploded. So we had to have the developers fix that code. Developers, oh my God, developers. That farm had 8 terabytes in 260 content databases. We did not do that over a weekend. That took several months. There was some planning there. We had another upgrade that took forever, and turns out they just didn't have enough resources on their SQL box. SQL is tough because the SQL Server engine will take all of the RAM that the box has, whether it needs it or not. So you can't just pop into a SQL box and look at Task Manager and go, SQL's fine, because it's always going to be maxed out. But it uses it for caching and things like that. So you need to get into T-SQL to try to figure out how busy SQL really is, and that's a lot of work, and most people don't do that. But we had that one SQL Server that needed some more resources, and so we did it. All right, so we got that. We're going to get that. Got some links here, and I don't have the slide at the end that's got the evaluation stuff. So I'm going to go down to the Rackspace booth right now and answer any questions you guys have. Those of you that got business cards, or if you asked a question and didn't get one, head down there. I'll give you a book, and that's it. So thank you very much. You guys are troopers showing up at 9 o'clock for this. Get out of here.